All right, folks, today we're going to talk about, I'm trying to get comfortable here, we're going to talk about early season hunting strategies. Most of y'all, that's going to be bow season stuff. I've done a little bit of work out there today checking for acorns. I ain't found much yet. Hopefully there's not going to be as many acorns as last year. So for early season hunting, archery strategies, you got to have a plan. First off, your plan. What is your goal? Are you going to hunt specifically bucks? Are you just going to be meat hunting? Are you going to be trophy hunting? You know, whatever, but you need to kind of figure that out first, because once you set a plan and a goal, try to stick to that. That way, because to me, doe hunting versus buck hunting versus mature buck hunting is three totally different things. I don't care if it's early season or maybe late season, but anyway, I'm going to concentrate on bucks like I always do, and mature bucks, that's a different thing. So first off, you got to figure out, which by now, hopefully everybody understands where they're hunting at, what kind of layout you got, your terrain, your funnels and all that stuff. You know about where your white oaks, red oaks, persimmons, you know, your food plots, stuff like that, know where they're at. And another thing about food is, just because it's people call acorns, persimmons, all that a food source, to me it's not really a food source, because deer don't have to have acorns, they don't have to have persimmons, they don't have to have a food plot. You know, there's hundreds of stuff in the woods, browse, whatever. That's what they live off of. They're technically called a browsing animal. They just browse. Once they get up out of their bed, they're browsing, nipping on stuff. They'll suck up certain kind of leaves and stuff all the time. On their way to what you call destination food sources will be white oaks, red oaks, food plots, whatever. So to always keep that in mind. They don't stump bed and go straight to a white oak tree and stay there all night eating. Because most of the time, they'll go to other trees. They're going around making their little tour, seeing everybody. They're going to see Jody, Leroy, you know, Susie, and all that. They're going at nighttime. They're going to do a bunch of stuff. So right now, I start looking for white oaks, see if they're dropping, and looking for what kind of sign you got around them. Because if you're going to doe hunt, you know, the more sign droppings everywhere, busted hulls everywhere, that's what you're kind of looking for doe hunting. Then figure out, you know, what kind of land layout you got if they're bedding from low. Because right now they could be bedding low and coming up, especially your bucks. They were being a little bit lower in the cooler areas, coming up to eat acorns and stuff like that. So, and of course they can be bedding parallel with them. They could be bedding above. It just depends on where your acorns are going to be dropping at. Because a lot of times your acorns up high are going to drop sooner than the lower ones, and it could be ridge dependent on what side of the ridge. It depends on how the rain was and all that. So you gotta kind of do some spot checking now. Go out, look at your white oaks, see what's dropping or what's up. Take binoculars with you, check up in the trees, see what's there. Check your red oaks. Now red oaks, to me, I prefer to hunt a buck over a red oak. You know, that's just me. Because a lot of times red oaks are in limited places, and a lot of times they're in harder places to get to, more secluded places, you know, better cover and stuff like that. So you always, like I said, have your plan. If you're gonna doe hunt or buck hunt, make your mind up. A lot of sign around a tree, droppings everywhere, busted hole everywhere is pretty much doe sign. Secluded areas of red oaks, I prefer, could be white oaks. You'll have big droppings. I mean, just compacted droppings is a pretty sure sign of a buck. So, and maybe tracks. You know, be careful about how you're looking at these places too. Don't try to leave a bunch of scent around. Once you find buck sign, and another thing I'm kind of leaving out is, it depends on what time of year. Like right now, Black Warrior, Chocolaca, some of these other places are going to open October 1st. You could still have bachelor groups of bucks together. So they'll once they start rubbing their velvet off, they'll be starting to rub and kind of show out a little bit. So they'll leave some sign close to these feeding areas. You know, some rubs, little scrapes, maybe some licking branches. So that's be kind of the buck sign you're looking for. But preferably I'm looking for big compacted droppings. You know, not them little bitty peels and little M&Ms or whatever you want to call them, just small droppings. I'm looking for big compacted droppings with big tracks, hopefully, and then maybe some rubs closest to some thick stuff or possibly scrapes. But look at that. Try to figure out how you're going to access, you know, because in the mornings it is real hard to kill a buck in the mornings to me early season, because most time he's already back in his bed by daylight. So the evening is my preferred way to do that. I've killed a couple mature bucks, say 3.5, in the evenings bow hunting, but I don't think I've killed one yet in the morning bow hunting early season. It's always been in the evening. So And these spots, I prefer an area that's lower, so I can sneak in from one little holler and then pop up to where I'm thinking they're coming down, and set up tight to where they're going to where some oaks is dropping, red oaks preferably, and maybe, like if it's getting a little bit dry, maybe a water source. So, but you got to figure out a way how you're going to get in there without busting them up. And the evening is the easiest way to do that, because you can sneak in with binoculars, kind of scan your way up, and get in without busting them. In the dark, in the morning, you're going in the dark, you can't tell if they leave, or you can't, of course, you can't see or anything, so it's much tougher. In the mornings, I prefer to hunt on the ridges, side of ridges, where the acorns are falling, trails going to them, maybe closer to the thicket, you know, where they're going back to bed. And then in the evenings, like I say, I'm always going to come into the bottom, somewhere where they're stepping out, going to the white oaks or something like that. You can also do cutovers. Cutovers, if they're bedding in the cutovers, a lot of times they do that. I like the lower places in the cutover where they're going to come down. It's even food plot be the same way. Where there's a lower part, you've got to have a down draft, and they'll come into that. They'll use that down draft, the thermofall, to access, to go to eat their acorns and stuff. They're checking for anything that could be a predator. So another good tactic about early season is I don't, you know, later season, you know, you're going to spend a little bit more time in rut funnels and stuff like that. But early season, I really try to stay mobile. I don't want to hunt a spot more than 1 or 2 times. So be prepared to be very mobile, because you don't want to burn a spot out. And plus, like I say, buck hunting is tough, you know, early season. So I would stay mobile, hunt a place a couple times. Another strategy is not to hunt in the mornings. Just do your early season scouting or in season scouting now. Scout the mornings, then hunt the evenings. You know, look for scrapes, look for other feeding areas, and then stay on the go. Just check out different spots close to pine edges, close to cutover edges, any kind of habitat change, looking for, because they could be a acorn tree dropping anywhere by itself, and you just not get there and not even see it. So if you just lock down on 1 or 2 spots, then you're not being flexible enough. So I would stay on the go, because I know several older guys that don't even hunt in the mornings early season. They just scout early mornings till lunch or whatever, try to find something hot. They'll hunt it in the evening a time or two, then they're on to the next place. They'll try to get up, because I'm going to bring up Tony Meyer. Tony Meyer tries to find 7 or 8 bucks to hunt, you know, during the season. So that way, because if you screw one up, you need to have a backup. Now, if you're doe hunting, that's completely different. You know, you're hunting where the more sign. Another early season tactic is early season food plots. And you can ask Kathy, we've hunted some early season food plots, especially at Wolf Creek, where deer will come out and dust be flying up, because they're coming out there to get them little sprouts. You know, as soon as they freshly come up, they love eating stuff like that. So you can try food plots in the evening early season before they get any kind of pressure. And I mean, a lot of people are very successful with that. We'll do it a little bit, but most of the time I'm looking for the red oaks for the bucks. So scout them mornings, hunt the evenings. If you like morning hunting, scout the evening and hunt the mornings. You know, that's your choice. You know, just enjoy it and have fun doing it. Another thing is, early season, your bucks are going to make a change. You know, a lot of times early season, just depends on, this again depends on what state you're in or what area you're in. Bachelor groups, well, whenever it gets close to what's called pre-rut, they're going to split up. So once they split up, they're changing. Another thing, if you're in velvet still, whenever they rub that velvet off, whatever pictures you had in the summer and stuff like that, they can move a mile. And I've talked to several people, a real mature old buck, once he sets up his home area, he might stay there velvet through hardhorn, because he's found a place that he's secure at and he feels secure. So just because you get some pictures of him in velvet and they kind of disappear, he's around there somewhere, because he's there for a reason. He'll bump them other bigger bucks out. You know, he might let a few small ones hang around, but them bigger ones that can be competitive with him, he'll run them out, and he's going to stay in that spot. I'm starting to see that here the last couple of years about certain bucks. Once they establish an area, they'll let a few younger ones in there hang out with them, say 3 or 4 of them, but the bigger bucks, they don't let them do it. They kick them out, so they don't like having that kind of encroachment. So anyway, you're going to have a change later on. You're going to have a lull, because squirrel hunters and all that's going to get in there. So your early season movement will start out hot, then it's going to start slowly getting, you know, less movement. So that's another good reason to stay mobile. You know, find something where somebody ain't been around scouting, squirrel hunting, horse riding, whatever. Find something that ain't touched and just stay on the move and get ready, because when it starts pre-rut, everything's totally different. Your bucks are going to start, you know, they're going to start laying their scrapes, the rubs, start making lines, you know, doing big circles where they're going out a mile or two out, you know, checking where the doe groups and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about that later as far as that hunting stage. But right now, the fresh sign, the freshest, the only two things I like to call, find a big track or a big buck is to find a big track and big droppings. So look for a big track close to a creek. You know, find your white oaks, find your red oaks. You know, even on logging roads you can find big tracks. And as soon as they rub that velvet off, they're gonna make a scrape somewhere. So look for that, and like I say, make your plan on what you want to hunt. If it's does, meat, whatever. I've got now where I don't hardly mess with any does anymore because I want the does to feel comfortable. So when it does change toward rut and stuff like that, the does are not being spooky, and it's easier to hopefully get a buck to be trailing them. So start establishing where your doe groups are as it gets later on in the early season, and then be ready for that switch, because whenever a couple of frost goes on, things start getting fired up and they'll be moving hard. But stay after it, stay mobile, and send me some pictures.